Alright, welcome back viewers to the Sharks Racing tutorial. Now this is a remake of my previous F-16 radar tutorial because in the last one I was having some issues with the OBS recording software. I didn't capture my voice, so this is the redo of that, where you can actually hear what I'm saying and follow my instructions. So let's get into air-to-air mode. We can do this in two ways. We can either use the AA button on the ICP, so press that, puts into air-to-air mode, give us the MRAM launch topology because that's the medium missile we have on board. It defaults to MRAMs. We can also deselect that, and if we press the missile override switch, that will put us into missile override. There's also pulling it aft, that goes into dogfight mode. So forwards, aft, and there we go. So we'll be using this switch for today, since this is what I use normally. I'll keep it in nav mode and just use this switch to switch between BVR and dogfight. So let's look at the symbology. So we have the radar in RWS. We can change this by holding TMS right long. There it goes into TWS. You can also change it by pressing the corresponding OSB. There we go, that's switches between RWS, VSR and TWS. Realistically, you're not going to be using VSR much, it's there, you can know about it, but I don't use it, I just use TWS in the Viper. So, IFF, very important to know. It has two kind of sub-modes that can be done using the TMS switch. To do that will get us into a narrower field of scan. You can do this either by pressing the corresponding OSB, by A6, that'll put us into A3 and A1, or we can go what's called a bump with the TDC, so we'll slew the TDC left, that'll bump us down between 30 and 60. You can also do the same thing by range bumping, so slew it up, goes 80, 160, and stops. We can slew all the way down to 5 miles range, go back to 40, and go to a 10-degree scan. So you see we have we have this one target in the radar's azimuth, so we'll TMS left short, that'll do a IFF scan, and IFF everything on the radar page. Now, if we want to just IFF what's within the scan azimuth, that should be a bit quicker since it's a shorter volume, so we'll TMS left long to do a line of sight scan. You see we get no returns from this guy because he is not within our line of sight of the radar's azimuth. If we were to slew the radar back over to this guy and TMS left long again, we will get a return. There we go, mode 4 return. So, to increase the antenna elevation, we use the antenna elevation knob clockwise and counterclockwise to slew the radar up and down, the antenna up and down, sorry. And we can lock targets using TMS up, just like with the T-Pod. So TMS up once, TMS up twice creates a track file on the target. Let's just turn on our generics. There we go, we can see the target is over there. Now, like in the Hornet, you can track multiple targets at once. I believe the Viper can do 6, because it can carry 6 MRAM, so it makes sense to be able to track 6 targets at once. We might be able to do more, I don't know. But 6 is all enough immediately. So if we TMS up short on this guy twice, that will make him the new target. We can TMS right short to switch between them. You see, we can see them on the HUD changing targets. Now, what I like to do in air-to-air mode is I will have on the right MFD, I will have the HSD and also the TGP. The TGP especially allows me to IFF targets by visually looking at them. Typically in the military, they have to do this, but this is what I like to do. You have, in order to get firing authorization, you have to have 2-factor authentication of IFF. That can either be an IFF return and one other mode, either by visual identifying, or anything else, but you cannot engage a target just based on a negative IFF return. So what I would like to do is let's lock this guy back up again. We lost lock for some reason, so lock him up, and we have him on the T-Pod. Now we can zoom in using the corresponding switches and buttons, And we can see quite clearly that is a MiG-29. So that is a hostile, confirmed by the negative IFF return. So once we have shot this guy down, then I'll use the other bandit to explain how to do dogfight mode, because I think that's very important to know. So whilst on the way there, I'll explain quickly the missile step button. So you can change weapons one of two ways. You can either press the corresponding OSB here, so we press this, switch between 9X and 120C. You can also press the missile step button. If you press it short, that switches missile pylons. We see stations 1 and 9, switches between those. Then if we hold the missile step button, it switches weapon type. So you see it switch between pylons 2 and pylons 8. So we'll go back to our AMRAMs and use those for this engagement. So now we've got a bit closer, we can see this little line here is expanded. This is the dynamic launch zone of the Viper. It shows information like on the Hornet. The top of this line is the max range. This kind of square is the no escape zone, which means the missile will hit the target even if they run away. It has the energy to hit it. Where it's counting down from A, then a number, that is time until pitbull. Time until the missile goes pitbull. Once that counts down to 0, it'll become T, then a number, and T standing for time to impact. So let's observe that happening now. We'll fire an AMRAM. Now the bandit won't maneuver much, so it should be able to hit him easily. Box 3, so A, so that's counting down. So that'll keep on counting down. A, 3, 2, 1, and then now it's become T19. T17, and that'll count down until the missile hits. Let's watch the T-pod. There, we've got a point track on the target using TMS up on the T-pod. And if we break clock now, the target will still be tracked by the T-pod with the dotted box showing that. There we go, target destroyed. Now let's do the BFM radar modes. So we can do this by pressing missile dogfight override aft, and we'll get into the symbology. So the radar has 3 modes like this, at least I'm aware of the 3 major modes. You have the slew mode, so you can see the radar cursor moving around, and also in the HUD. This is just scanning an area defined by the HUD with the highest and lowest altitudes defined there. So you see we're scanning 22,000 and 15,000. Let's also bring up those FD pages on this master mode. So let's go and look. There we go. Let's make the HSD soy and slew the cursor onto the bandit and TMS up short. There we go. That has put the enemy into a primary data track, which means we are tracking the enemy's location based on data link with that octagon showing the location. It's not 100% accurate, but it's good enough to kind of keep an eye on stuff. So if we make the radar soy again, and TMS up, there you go, TMS up, that has now put the radar into bore sight mode. This gives, now without the HMD, the radar will just scan that kind of across there, so it's a very narrow zone. But with the HMD, we can actually slew the radar around, which you can kind of see on the radar page. This radar's moving, and if we look at the target, wherever there we go, look at the target, the missile tracked. So let's go back to the SMS. Now the 9X defaults to slave mode, but since this is a high-off bore sight missile, you can set it to what's called bore mode. And this will bore sight the missile to either the aircraft's bore sight, or if you have geohimics installed like I do, it'll bore sight it to the helmet, like in the Hornet, sorry. So we can slew the missile with the helmet and lock it that way. So the radar also has a wide acquisition mode, again like in the Hornet. If you TMS right short, that will put the radar into a wide acquisition mode, allowing you to lock targets a little bit off to the left and right of your aircraft center. And also another thing to mention is the vertical mode. This is a dogfight mode. So you can see that line going down the HUD. That represents the area the radar can lock targets in. It will go all the way up there. It's a very high kind of angle that it can lock at, but it doesn't scan horizontally much. Where'd this guy go? Let's see where he went. Okay, he's off to my left. Okay, that makes so I can't see it. Okay, let's try and lock the sky. See just how high we can lock the target at. Should be around this way. Where has this guy gone? Okay. Go into wide mode, see if that finds him. Okay, just one above. Okay, let's go. Okay, there he is now. There he is. Okay, let's use the ball sight mode to lock him. Okay, and locked. Now let's use the Cajun cage switch to lock a missile. Okay, missile locked, and fire. And there we go, we have a countdown until impact. 3, 2, 1. Okay, he actually flared it down. Okay, let's fire a second missile. Okay, missile away. Have an MRAM left if he fires that somehow, but I don't think he will. Let's fire the MRAM. Yeah, he's definitely going down with that. Okay, viewers, there we go. Apologies for uploading the same thing twice, but as I said, you know, that recording just wasn't up to par. I couldn't hear anything, so I am going to I redid it. You know, want to keep up the relatively high standard that I hold myself to. You know, I don't want to be known for putting out subpar content or tutorials. So there we go. But I do hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Shark31 signing off.